Thank you. Thank you. Great to see everybody tonight. We'll start out with introductions. I'm Nancy Harkins from the steering committee.
Yeah, those areas also have experience getting wrong.
Okay, and also with us are Charlie and Shawnee. You want to introduce yourselves?
Hey, I'm Shawnee. I work for CEDO, supporting the NPAs.
Charlie?
And I'm Charlie G. I work for Town Meeting Television and glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
And you're also a town clerk.
Yeah, I know.
I don't mean a ward clerk.
Yeah.
Ward,
It's a long story.
which one?
I live in Ward 2, but I'm usually the ward clerk in Ward 3. Until, as we were discussing earlier, as I spoke to most people in the room here, we're looking for someone else to be the ward clerk in Ward 3. So if anybody knows a responsible person who would like to be a ward clerk.
Okay, we're gonna go around
Okay.
and have everybody introduce themselves.
Yes.
Romeo?
My name is Romeo, and my regular job is working at Green Mountain Transit.
I'm Alan Matson, Ward 6 resident and Ward Clerk-elect in Ward 6.
Fancy.
Thank you.
Introduction?
Just doing the introduction.
I'm Becca Brown McKnight. I'm the city councilor for Ward 6.
Hi, I'm Bob Lighty. I'm a Ward 6 resident.
Diane Gayer, Ward 6 resident.
Oh, you have a microphone. It's your own microphone.
So I'm Bruce Wilson, and I thank everyone for supporting our Art So Wonderful programs and our mural and abatement program. I'm also Vermont Human Rights Commissioner. The governor appointed me to the commission, and so if you ever need anything from the commissioner's office, Human Rights Commission, you can look up Bruce Wilson.
I'm gonna pass that.
Oh, sure.
Mary Twitchell, Ward 6. Oh, you've already done it.
Greg, excuse me, Greg Eplerwood, Clerk, Ward 6.
Okay, I'm grabbing one. Wendy Hacken, Ward 6.
Robin Fawcett, Ward 6.
Joel Hacken, Ward 6.
Okay, I should say, because the room is so small, we have so many microphones, you don't have to get that close to them.
Okay,
Okay,
Then talk.
okay,
perfect.
great. Thanks for letting us know. And who do we have online?
It looks like just you and Dale are online attendees. Says Dale and Nancy.
That'd be a different. That's my husband.
I was like,
Wait a minute.
I was like, I don't think it's a
online.
different Nancy. That's her last name.
My husband Ted's at home. And I left my name on the computer, so.
You're checking if you're really doing your job.
Yes. Okay, so our first order of business is announcements. And Craig, you were going to give us an exciting update about town meeting day.
Yeah, calm down. It's going to be really exciting. Yeah, this was my fourth year and final stint as a ward clerk. And Alan Matson is going to be the successor, my successor in Ward 6. I don't know when reorganization day is, but at that day, then we do the actual changing of the guard. I just a few statistics on the election. Town meeting day election happened. Was it 2 days ago? 3 days ago? 2 days ago. We had 42 workers. We try to encourage people to avoid the word volunteer, although when they sign up, they're volunteering to sign up, but then they get paid as an assistant election officer. And since we had about 42 people working, and that doesn't count the elected officials, We had, over the years, I have a rough estimate of maybe 65 to 70 people over the past four years that I've been clerk that have at least worked once, and many of them have worked more than once. The election this year had the town meeting had we have about 3,500. Maybe Alan knows a better figure, but we have about 3,500 registered voters in the ward, in Ward 6, and we had 1,338 people vote. And I would guess that most of those, maybe even 1,000 of those, were absentees. And let me define absentee versus in-person voting. An absentee is counted, even though the person comes to the poll with their ballot, if they hand the ballot, put the ballot into a ballot box at the voting location on town meeting day, that's still considered an absentee ballot. If they want to put the ballot in the tabulator themselves, then that's counted as an in-person voting. So just to be clear. So that means, I don't know if I'm correct, we had about 340 people that showed up on election day to vote in person. The question came up, well, we changed, as most people know, we changed the venue from the middle school. If anybody knows how long it's been since the middle school has been Ward 6 voting venue, speak up. Anybody know how long it's been? It's been at least 25 years that I know of. 30? Okay. So anyway, the change was a big change. Well, it is to many people. We tried to I put in 4 front porch forum neighborhood announcements. And we did a lot of signage. We had the candidates put the notices on their websites. And we got the word out as best we can. And of course, what happened was, I think that I expected people to be confused. We had sandwich boards at all the entrances. We tried to get the word out exactly where to go in, and if you needed an accessible parking or an entrance, we tried to make that clear. One of the pros of having it in where the elementary school is that there's more parking, legal parking there. Also, the space itself is. I heard at least 3 workers say to me, "Boy, or overheard them say, "Boy, this is really a nice space," which it is. It's nice and cozy. If you were there in person or worked there, Alan, I think you would agree that it's smaller. It has a bathroom. It has water fountain, we, I think, figured out. Alan and I have yet to talk about this, but I think we figured out. Next town meeting, which will probably be the next election, 2026, unless there's a special election, the elementary school will probably be the venue again. The principal, we had a lot of really great cooperation. They went beyond their requirements to really help us out. The principal's name is Colby Snellenberger, and Drew Williams is the Burlington School District. I don't know his exact title, but he takes care of the buildings. He's kind of like the custodial type of supervisor. And he went over and above his call of duty. And of course, the custodial staff was really very, very helpful as well. So the downsides were that, if it's dark, the lighting may not be good because we had some icing up problems that may have discouraged people and made people feel that why do we have to go up, all around this way to get to the back of the building to get into the gym. But at the end, and we'll talk about this as we plan the next one, there is a better way to get into the gym that I think will be both accessible as well as general entrance into the building to get to the gym, and it probably won't be as complicated next time. So it worked out well as far as I'm concerned. Only a few complaints about it, but I think that was because of the newness of it. And so long as, if we have an election when there's daylight from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., I think some of those complaints will disappear as well. And I want to ask Alan if he has anything to add, if that's okay, Nancy.
Yeah. Okay. We just also looked at a few off-cycle elections. The total number of votes was right in line with non-mayor election, town day elections. I was kind of surprised when you said the number 3,400 as far as registered voters. I thought our number was significantly higher, but it is 3,400. I'm just looking at the summary results right now. I think some of that comes from they do take, and they've been working harder to keep names of people who have only been here temporarily off the lists. We have many more people in Ward 6 who are now at the university. And for elections like the presidential election, we have many more day of registrants. So we had very few day of registrants for this election. Greg mentioned the difference between foot traffic into the space versus how many people voted before. It was a city election. All of the ballots were mailed out. I think that going forward, one thing we're going to talk about with the city and with the schools is making sure that if the schools are in session, which the next time it might happen might be the 2026, it would be the 2026 general election in November. When school's in session, we will have to be very careful to make sure that people aren't roaming around the school as they come in. That'll be one challenge. The accessibility was a big improvement from what we had at the middle school gym. So yeah, it's going to get better. There'll be some discussion with the city, with others to make sure that it is the right decision. The one other thing I want to add is if anybody worked elections 5 or 6 years ago prior to Greg taking on the role, you will have experienced a very different experience. It has become so much better, so much more organized, so much a better process at the Ward 6 polls. And this is thanks to Greg. And I only hope that I can continue to keep us at the level that we've had, especially with being able to organize people who are working and covering all the details that need to be covered when an election occurs. So thank you very much, Greg. And I think we should really all give Greg a round of applause.
Good. Okay. And then Bruce, you wanted to say a few words?
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, so I've been trying to put all this in my head together in my head right now. So I've been sitting here about what I'm gonna say. But I just want to thank Ward 6 and Nancy and all of you for supporting our Art So Wonderful and mural project and graffiti abatement program. And we've been doing this work since since 2001 when I created it at the Community Justice. I'm a founding member of the Community Justice Centers in Burlington. And so we've been doing it since 2001, but since 2003, we've been doing it separately. And the graffiti abatement program is we clean up graffiti around Burlington for many, many years. And since that time, it's been that crazy with graffiti. As you can see right now, it's really bad. It's terrible actually. And we try to do my studies in 2002. If you put murals over graffiti, it usually is a code of ethics that the graffiti vandals follow, and that they usually don't vandalize the murals. But it's like for some reason they haven't been following that, and so a lot of our murals have to be redone, and as well as graffiti. Try to erase the graffiti that's out there. As you can see around downtown Burlington, around Burlington central area, up top around the buildings is all crazy with graffiti. And so we've been starting to do murals on top there and clear out graffiti down. God, I can't think of what's the name of that lane between X and Red Square. That.
Right.
What's the guy's name? You might know, Charlie.
I don't remember either.
Thorson Lane, right. We've been doing murals all around the corner. So this year we're gonna put murals down there as well as continue to put murals down there. We did one for Juneteenth event with the city sponsored. And so we're gonna put murals all around there and hopefully that nobody vandalizes it, whereas people come in from other parts of the country or world can come around there and say, wow, look, it's, be a site, a part of one of the good sites to see, because they're going to go all the way around out to College Street and they're going to do some on the ground too. And so that's our goal. And we've been worked on it. Sarah Holbrook's put up one, and some other artists, wonderful artists that have done some things there. Helig, who's very popular, and so we're gonna continue to do that work this year. And so of course, we always need some help. You know, you guys helped us last year with some graffiti repellent and conditioner, which we use in a lot of our locations. You know, I think we got 10 gallons of it, which was it's not cheap either for that. It's very expensive. You know, if you go World Best Graffiti Removal, it's like probably around $500 for 5 gallons. You know, I don't know what you guys pay for it, but you guys did 10 gallons, and we worked with code enforcement on Bill for many, many years. They are partners on this. I don't know how many years. I know Bill for like over 20 years, you know. And so we always work together trying to clean up stuff, and Bill will tell you it's probably one of his primary jobs, you know, is painting over that graffiti. And then he's like, Bruce, you got a wall, you got a wall, you know, and so we go do it. And so you know, I know Joan Shannon have helped us with monetary. She donated money to our programs so we can continue to work and do this work. And so this year, I'm meeting with, and also, I'm sorry, I'm a little scattered. I'm meeting with the city of Berlin mayor's office next week to try to, you know, get them to help us with monetary. They know what, you know, they know what we need, and it's like. And for me, and I just don't, you know, since we've been doing this work since 2001, starting the Community Justice Center, I really don't see really no one else besides code enforcement Bill doing this work. You know, to me, it's like I don't get it. I don't understand it. You know what I mean? Why, you know, why we can't keep our city beautiful? You know, I don't even live in Burlington, but I primarily work in Burlington, and I've been, you know, I'm known a lot in Burlington for doing the work that I do, you know. Just to back up a little bit, so I'm originally from Chicago. I should have started off that, and been in Vermont since 1989, and my programs have over 50 wards, and we've done over 700 events in Burlington. I graduated from Northwestern University. I got a degree in psychology. And so, you know, I opened up 7 youth centers in all the malls, so chill out centers and living rooms and Loft 89 and you know, a lot of centers. We just got a new one open in Winooski, and so to help youth and families with safe places, and open up art galleries in the University Mall, wonderful art galleries. All those cool murals you see around town and electrical boxes. We created that wonderful electric boxes. That's our partners do some in South Burlington, but we created wonderful boxes. You know, you can Google my name and you can see a lot. I'm also Vermont Human Rights Commissioner. The governor appointed me like 3 years ago. I said, you know, Vermont mental health. If you Google Chittenden County Regional Planning, a lot of boards I sit on to help people with it. All I do is help people with that's all I do. I don't think I'm better to do anything else but to work with people and help them with their goal, youth and families. So I'm here. And I asked Nancy, I said, Nancy, can I please come and talk about, you know, that we need some help again? And I don't have no number pack right now. We're putting it all together, what we need to do, and getting all our pictures of mural sites. I walked down Church Street yesterday. I took a lot of pictures. Oh my God, I got like 10 pictures just walking from Cherry Street. I didn't even go to Pearl Street. I walked from Cherry Street, you know, up, looking down, looking around. Good Lord, man, and it is so much graffiti out there. And my part, I don't know, Bill might have the answer to this. We've been trying to find, I don't know if he got the answer, because we've been trying to figure out the answer for years. That, how, first of all, not to talk about the Burlington police, but years ago they used to catch them. But why is nobody getting catching in these graffiti vandals? And why so much graffiti out there? Why is just he and I doing his work? You know what I mean? Bill's like, damn, he probably got 900 things else to do, and he out there painting over graffiti. That's. He got more things to do than, code enforcement director got more things to do than do that. But he see it, what's going on. And And so my point is that, you know, we need some help. Is this Bill and I don't see no, Bill, you know anybody else to do this one?
I think you should stand by till you talk with the mayor's office soon.
Yeah.
I think they'll have a response.
Oh,
So-
they will? Okay.
Yeah,
We'll see.
if I can interrupt, yeah,
Sure.
the last time you were here, this time you sound much more desperate and
Oh, yeah.
you really need the money, you really need the people to help.
Yeah.
So make sure you give out the contact information, take Venmo or whatever. Please do.
Yeah, yeah, and we have one of my directors is putting out.
There's a hand behind you.
Oh, sorry.
Want to point out that there is, I know that it's not much, but Branch Out Burlington that plants the trees paints all the planter cement bases
Nice.
that have been hit with graffiti.
Nice.
So you're not alone.
Nice.
There's other people
Nice.
out there working.
Yeah, city councilor.
I also,
Becca, can you come to?
I've been in touch with the mayor's office and Joe McGee about this, and we've been talking about doing a potential cleanup at Memorial Auditorium.
Oh, okay.
And, so hopefully they'll mention that because it's supposed to happen this spring. And we talked about, doing a community-wide cleanup
Mhm.
day.
Yeah.
So hopefully that could invite
That's
more.
Bring Up Day or Green Day or?
We don't have a date
Oh,
yet.
yeah.
Um, so definitely ask about that, and I will.
No doubt about it.
We'll
Yeah.
Make something happen.
Yeah.
because,
Yeah.
Right, we need more. I think a lot of community members
Yeah.
would be open to stepping up, but they need help organizing. And I think
Exactly.
that as the city, we can provide that.
Yeah, and we'll help too as professionals and experts at this at what we do. And then there's what building you said?
Memorial.
Memorial Auditorium, and then there's what's the other one? The YMCA. Yeah. Jeez, you were on the team.
Well, that was gonna fence around it and it's under construction. 2/3 of that building is gonna be demolished very soon.
All right.
And all of them are.
All right.
Bruce, if I can
So-
say it,
Yeah.
in front of the, where the pit used to be,
Where sorry.
where the pit used to be, they're building up whatever, the two buildings over there. They have that fence that is there where it's like an eyesore in front of the transit center. And it gets
Oh, the church.
graffiti every time.
yeah,
like,
yeah.
Right by the church bell
Yeah.
and everything.
Yeah.
It is an eyesore every
Yeah,
time.
it is. Now I talked to Dave Mont. He's in charge of a lot of that. Our
It's
diocese.
like, because we called, I think I called you a couple of times and you guys kind of fixed over and then only to have it within a couple of days
Yeah.
covered up with graffiti
Okay.
again.
So just one more question from Diane and then,
But I think Charlie said it's okay from here.
oh,
No, you should hand it back. to her.
Me too. Sorry. So my question is just, you have kids help doing the
yeah,
painting?
we have-
So do you have enough kids? No.
Well, first of all,
Where's the shortfall other than money?
yeah, well, in a lot of cases we use Burlington High School students because they all need 10 hours community service, and 40 hours total to graduate. So we use them, but we need more. So when we use them we have a program called United College Club, and so we use our more college student age because those are the ones who really gonna really do the work. You know what I mean? So, but high school kids, I can send college students with teams on their own, you know what I'm saying? But high school kids, we have to have teams just to watch them. So,
Yeah.
so more or less we use college student age youth and to help us out. And I sit on the advisory board for Vermont State Police, and so they're gonna we're gonna try to figure out ways they could come do like a community service day as well.
so it looks like,
Where I heard Becca alluding to adults, or community members, you would more want community members as backup, not as artists or both?
Yeah. I think as well,
Okay.
because like Bill will tell you, faster we can paint over some walls. They bomb it again. It's called bomb the wall. That's the term they use. That wall is bombed, so it's called bomb the wall. That they do it as fast. So we need to put murals up as fast as we can clean it up. You know what I mean? Usually, like I said, the code of ethics is that they don't bomb the wall when you see a mural. But sometimes, a lot of times they do, especially when they get old, we own like 70% of the murals.
so we'll continue to wait to hear from
Yes, thank
Becca
you. I
about what
appreciate it.
opportunities may be coming up that we can get involved with.
Thanks,
supporting
Nancy.
you.
Thanks to Ward 6 for supporting us.
Contact information.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yes, sir. I think Nancy have everything that.
Yeah,
I need.
no, we'll
Yeah,
get it out.
Great, okay.
We'll get it out
Thank you.
in the minutes.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bruce. I just wanted to mention a couple of other things. One, next Thursday is the Mayor's Safety Forum. That's Thursday, March 13th at 5:30, and that's going to be in Fletcher Free Library. And then a new Indivisible chapter is starting in Burlington. It just went up on the register, the listing, the website for Indivisible. It's the Queen City, Vermont Indivisible. So if you're interested in that, you can check out the website. It's literally just getting started. And now I can turn it over to Becca.
Hi, everyone. So the steering committee asked me to give a general update on town meeting day election results. And since we've already talked about a lot of what was on.
So you say exactly who you are.
Oh, sure. Sorry. Yes. I'm Becca Brown McKnight, and I'm the city councilor for Ward 6. Giving an update on town meeting day election results and ballot initiatives, as well as just what's coming up soon in front of the city council site. I know we've spent already a lot of time hearing about all the various ballot initiatives, so I'm going to speed through that a little bit quickly. But first up, city council race results. I know Joan was planning to come. She just sent me she's probably going to be joining online, so she can add to what I say. But I do want to thank Councilor Shannon. This is the first time in 22 years that she hasn't been on the ballot. So thank you. And we'll be thanking Joan a lot as she winds down her term. So there will be more opportunities to celebrate her. The winner of the race here in South District was Buddy Singh. So now Ward 6 will be represented by both myself in the ward, and then by Councilor-elect Buddy Singh, who will be sworn in on Organization Day, which I think it's April 7th this year. It's early April, our first meeting in April. And then we have our new Inspector of Elections here. Alan, is that your title? Yes. Okay.
Ward clerk.
Ward clerk.
Clerk, yeah.
Sorry. Okay.
I was inspector.
Oh, Joan's here. And then as far as the ballot initiatives, I think all 7 of the ballot initiatives passed. So we had the 2 water bonds, we had the general obligation bond, and let's see if I can remember all of these with no notes. We had the no guns and bars ban, which passed with the highest, I was happy to see it passed with the highest number, percentage of voters supporting that. I think 79 or
No,
89%. Yeah, overwhelming support. So hopefully I'll definitely be keeping in touch with our state reps on making sure that gets across the finish line, because just overwhelming support and logical steps to take there. The rental notification period passed, and that change will give the city council the ability to change the required time that landlords have to give their renters for not renewing their lease. Nothing, you'll hear more about that if it does change. Really nothing to talk about at this moment. We also had the redistricting charter change that passed, and same thing, we can only redistrict every 5 years. So and I think we did it about 2 years ago, so that wouldn't come up again for another 3 years. And then school budget. Thank you. School budget passed, and thanks for everyone for supporting our schools. I was happy to see that pass. And now our taxes will go down by 4%, the contribution from the school budget. So that's election day results. I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone has any on that. Okay, great. And Joan, if you have anything to add to that piece, you can jump right in.
Well, thank you. And sorry to be late here. I think you've covered all of the election matters quite well, Becca.
a couple things that are happening in the ordinance committee. I don't know if you mentioned, because I came in.
No.
No.
Okay. So we are going to be talking about the changes to zoning for Champlain College that are on your agenda tonight. So I'm really interested to hear what you all think during that discussion. And Becca and I, of course, are both on the ordinance committee. We have a lot of things we're trying to wrap up just in the next couple of weeks. One of the other things is less of an impact on Ward 6 really than on Ward 5, but some impact to the entire city, and that is whether or not we allow performing arts centers, which is what higher ground would be, and in the South End Arts District. So higher ground has expressed some interest, and specifically BCA has expressed interest and really invited higher ground to join them on the backside of their building. And during COVID, they had the backside of 405 concerts, which were outdoor concerts that went very well. They were well attended, they were well received by the neighborhoods. And this proposal is to use possibly up to 15,000 square feet of that building for a new higher ground facility, and higher ground has been looking for a new facility. Now, this is the earliest stages, whether or not this particular site is going to work for them, whether the South End Arts District generally is going to work for them are really unknowns. They haven't really done the deep dive that they need to make that determination. But the first step is the zoning to see if we're going to allow them to go there, because right now there's a square footage limit that only allows performing arts centers that I forget what the square footage is, but it's much smaller. So that's one thing we're looking at. We still need to wrap up our cat conversation. And the dogs, actually, there's a lot of, there's changes with the dog ordinance as well. And actually I have my notes here.
Vacant buildings, Joan, we're working on too.
Yep, vacant buildings, how we're going to really kind of create a disincentive for vacant buildings. But it also involves how we define vacant buildings. You know, we do have vacant buildings in the city that are vacant really kind of through no fault of the owners of those buildings. They're in the process of being redeveloped, and so we have to have some allowance for that. But we do want to encourage people to get their buildings into a process to be something other than a vacant building. And we also have some discussion that I'm not sure whether or not we're really going to be able to advance about having an incentive program to enforce ordinances, which is kind of a follow-up to the graffiti ordinance that we put forward, where there was a private right of action in that, and the ACLU and Cornell Law Foundation came to us and said, you know, we don't think that this is constitutional for all of these reasons. It also kind of pits one neighbor against another neighbor. So there are issues with that. And this incentive program is a program that has worked in other communities to try, you know, we have very little enforcement of many ordinances, including graffiti. And so we're going to be taking a look at this incentive program that has worked in some other communities, but that may take more time than we can get to by the end of this council.
Sorry, go ahead, Dale.
Joan, could you explain what you mean by an incentive program? I don't quite get that.
I'm kind of we gave it to the city attorney's office to get a draft ordinance, and Becca, I don't know, you may have a better.
Yeah, I can jump in. So I think the best this is good to explain with an example. For the program that does this in the best way that I've heard about is in New York City, they have a system where you can, I'm not exactly sure how you sign up to participate, but they have a no idling law similar to what we have here in Vermont for idling. And so an average citizen, if you catch somebody idling or you observe someone idling, you can write a ticket and it's not citizen's arrest. It's much more low level than that. But or if it doesn't have to be a ticket, it could be some sort of an online reporting system that then issues a ticket by mail, for example. I think that's actually how it works. So we're looking into that to see if it's something we could do because our police department is spread so thin. We're not sure where we're going to land. I could see there being certain violations that is a good idea for, and then certain ones that it might not be because, for example, graffiti, I would love to have more enforcement of graffiti ordinance violations, but a lot of it happens in the middle of the night. So I'm not sure if a citizen-led initiative is going to be the best way to combat that, for example. But it's very early stages, so you'll hear more. You'll have a chance to hear more about that. And Joan, I was going to give a preview of the council meeting agenda for Monday, unless you had more on ordinance. Okay.
Go for it. I'm all set. Thanks.
Great. So for the current makeup of the city council, we have 2 more meetings that are going to happen in March. So we're a little bit in a limbo. I mean, it's not really a limbo, but we've just elected the new councilors, but they are not serving yet until April. So for this Monday, we have a meeting on Monday, the 10th, and then their next council meeting is on the 24th, I believe. And so we have a pretty light agenda coming up this Monday. We are going to be taking up the Champlain College bed caps. There's going to be a public hearing, so anyone can feel free to come and give comment on that. We'll hear from Nick. I see you over here in a little while in more detail, so I won't go into that too much. I'm very supportive of that, I'll just say for now. And then we also have a resolution really requesting our state delegation to support and provide funding for Green Mountain Transit, the bus system. It's been very underfunded historically, and so this resolution just kind of reiterates how important that service is to the city of Burlington in terms of our transportation options as well as our sustainability goals. And I see Bram just walked in, so we'll be bugging you about that. And then we also have a resolution that I'm not sure if this is going to stay on the agenda, but just a quick update on what this is. We've been operating an emergency shelter at the Miller Center, emergency cold weather shelter over the winter period to give, obviously a shelter to vulnerable folks sleeping outside. And it's come to our attention that we don't have as transparent as we would like an oversight program of that gives counselors access to the information that they need to make sure that the shelter is being run in accordance with the law and all of the state requirements. And so we are putting this forth as kind of a way to get us that access and increase transparency. I think we're going to be speaking with the mayor's office. My hope is that we may be able to work this out with the mayor's office instead of having to do a resolution. So not sure where that stands. I don't know that will be resolved on Monday. We might have to postpone that to allow more time for some collaborative dialogue. So that's the last thing there, and I'm happy to take any questions. Yes, Greg.
Yes, the charter changes that were passed
Yes.
on the ballot. Maybe Joan has more experience with this, but what's the process? How long would it take to get those approved by the state legislature? And what are the chances of 1, 2, or 3 of them being?
Yeah. Well, I know the basics there, I think, but the process is that the legislature has to take up the charter changes and approve them. Ideally, that would happen this session, but there's nothing that really requires it to happen this session. It depends on what else on the legislature's plate and also the likelihood, I think the leadership does an assessment of how likely they think things will be to pass. I know our delegation knows how strongly we feel about many of these. So I know it's on their priority list. And Bram, if you would like to jump in, I know you're brand new also. So if you have anything to add
know
about
the gun- the
how
gun
you
issue.
see that going, you have to come up to the microphone.
Can you just move to a mic or
Yeah.
please?
Put you on the spot, but
Okay, so if Brand and Joan, if Joan speaks, if you could just identify yourself for the record.
Yes, for the record, Bram Klepner, state rep for this part of Burlington. And relative to guns, there are two things happening in the legislature. One is the charter change, and the other is a separate bill in case, for whatever reason, the charter change is not approved, that would make that a statewide law to keep guns out of establishments with that serve alcohol. And honestly, I don't know. I don't know the process for approving charter changes. Maybe they go to the committee of jurisdiction and need to be voted out of committee and then through the floor.
I
I can speak to it a
heard
little.
that they, at least the one for guns and bars has to go to the governance, yeah.
The charter, and this
Go
is
ahead.
Shannon, South District City Councilor. The charter changes go to the GovOps committee. All the charter changes go through
Okay.
GovOps. And then we were told, I believe, not me personally, but it came through the grapevine to me that the legislature we already passed this particular charter change, I think 10
2014.
years ago or so.
2014.
Okay, so a little more than 10 years ago. And they could, so the timeline is sometime between now and never. That charter change could still be acted on, the one from 2014 could still be acted on if the legislature wanted to. But they said, we would rather you put that on the ballot again. So we put it on the ballot again. But the reason it wasn't passed is because there is this what they call the Sportsman Bill of Rights, which I think is in the Vermont Constitution. The concept behind that is that we should not have different gun laws from town to town in Vermont, which honestly makes some sense to me. It's kind of hard when you have to know all the different municipal regulations. There is value in kind of a cohesive set of laws that applies statewide. So there is a law, as Bram mentioned, or a bill coming forward that would do the same thing statewide. And I, for one, would be in favor of that because, whether I'm in a bar in Burlington or in South Burlington, I would like the same level of safety. So I think the legislature will have to decide if they're going to take it up in GovOps or if they're going to pursue this other avenue, and that other bill is probably in some other committee. So hopefully there's some coordination there.
Yeah.
Yes, I will say the statewide bill got co-sponsorship from everyone in all the Burlington representatives, and it is the first bill that has gotten me a threat. So I've passed a milestone in my legislative career. So.
thank you, Bram. And I would just add, if folks are passionate about various charter changes, as Joan said, there's not any rule that any of them have to be taken up by the legislature. So if you feel strongly, as I do, about the No Guns and Bars charter change or any of the other ones, contact your state reps and tell them how you feel. And
I would
be
say
nice about it.
now that Joan has clarified that they all go to the GovOps committee, I think the chair of GovOps is the person to contact.
And who is that?
That is Matt Byrong.
Oh, from down in Virgins. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just please stop.
Birong. I think he spells his last name.
Isn't crossover in like next week?
Yes. Um, so I think not much this year. And bills that don't go through this year stay live for next year. They don't all get deleted until the end of the biennium. So there is next year. It is also true that we have been told we should plan to spend 2 extra weeks this year, mostly because of all the education stuff. And the House leadership has signaled that there's a little more flexibility on crossover this year than in past years. So, but I will check with Matt about his intentions.
Any other questions for Becca or Joan?
I have a question for Becca. Hi, Becca. When you at this council meeting Monday, are you going to say anything about the graffiti? Or
At the council meeting? I mean,
graffiti abatement or graffiti? Yes.
it's not on our agenda at this point, but, so I don't, my plan for what I'm going to do with that is to kind of do the same thing that you're planning to do, which is meet with the mayor's office, because they've given assurances that that's something they want to work on collaboratively with the council in the spring. They told me the last I talked about it. So I'm definitely planning to do that. And hopefully it will be on a future agenda, in which case I will definitely talk about it. Thanks.
Thanks. And before we move away from city council.
Yeah, so thanks, Nancy. We as the Ward 6 NPA and as the steering committee for sure, but I think I speak for everybody here, want to express our deep appreciation to Joan, who has been representing us for a long time and with remarkable making herself available to us, coming to these meetings, responding to emails and phone calls, and working tirelessly and smartly. And Joan, we just really appreciate that. Thank you for all you've done. Glad you're still around for at least another month.
Yeah.
But we didn't want to miss this chance to say thank you.
Oh, thank you. It's truly been an honor. You know, it is a privilege to serve, and it's a privilege to have a seat at the table. And I have really been grateful for the community support all of these years, and the community conversations I've been able to have. Thank you.
So our next topic is Bill Ward.
Well, the topic's not me, but thank you.
Bill, do you want, I think it's,
I was gonna say.
here, why don't you take this spot?
One, or it's, I think it's better for the
How
camera.
about right here, Bill, please.
All right,
Okay.
thank you. Glad someone's still in the room since everybody was volunteering to leave, so I can have the spot. I'm Bill Ward, and I'm the director of the Permitting and Inspections Department. And before you ask yourself the great question, why is the person who's in charge of permitting inspections here to talk about syringes? It is a great question. Part of my role as the director is I'm also Burlington's town health officer. It's a state, it's the Vermont Department of Health commissioned position. So I'm essentially commissioned by the Vermont Commissioner of Health to be Burlington's town health officer at the recommendation of the mayor and the city council. They do the appointment on a 3-year term as the health officer. And typically Burlington's head of the housing inspection system in Burlington has been that person designated as the health officer. So part of my 3-division team is in charge of inspecting the 11,000 rental units in the city of Burlington. That's enough work in and of itself, but I have a team that does all of the zoning permitting, and I have another team that does the building trades permits for building permits, electrical permits, plumbing and mechanical permits. So it's the creation of the one-stop shop, and it's here in this building. On the health officer side of things, where I'm the health officer, the challenge of having syringes in our community was something that started for me around 2012. I started in the job, Mayor Bob Kiss originally appointed me in 2010, and I was the director of code enforcement before Department of Permitting Inspections was created. But actually before that, I should say I was a Burlington police officer for 22 plus years, and grateful to not be doing that now, but I still got my hands full. The syringe issue really started out with a very few, or I'll just call them a handful of reported syringes being found around 2012. And it's sort of grown into almost the need for its own department. I brought a couple of statistics because Nancy was nice enough to tell me some of the history of what the Ward 6 was interested in for your neighborhood. I'll go backwards and say last year there were 899 reports of found syringes in Burlington. So those are just discarded somewhere in the city. That doesn't mean actual single, like an individual syringe. If this was one, that can be any number of syringes. The reports of 899, one of those 899 reports could have included, it did include, in fact, one of the ones that I was at that we collected a 5-gallon pail of syringes at. So it's a big problem. The year before, in 2023, there were a little bit more. That was the highest year to date. 2023 had 991 reports in the city. 2022 had 789. So it's, almost 800. Almost 1,000, and then last year there was about 900 reports. Just to give a comparison, this year to date, overall in the city from January 1st till today, 58 reports last year. 104 reports last year, 19 reports so far this year. Sorry, one more time, I'll excuse myself. Last year was 104, this year was 58. In Ward 6, last year was 19 reports, and this year to date, there's only been 5. So there's a downward trend right now, but I'm a little suspicious, as I mentioned to Nancy, that part of this year, if you were watching like I was, we had a lot more snowfall, a lot more, much more of what I would call a traditional winter. So I'm suspicious that there were fewer reports because they were just covered up. If I'm right, and that is what happened, we're probably going to see an explosion of those in the next few months. Traditionally, we normally see those reports increase as the weather warms anyway, but I am suspicious of some of the lower numbers. It just could be that some of the things are hidden. It's no reason to fly the flag and say we're declaring success. The numbers are dropping. It's encouraging, but we're not out of the woods yet. I wanted to share a couple of comments about where you report it. There's this thing called See, Click, Fix. It was started around the same time that we started seeing these issues, 2012. See, Click, Fix is a web-based tool created by probably a millionaire now in Massachusetts or in Connecticut, who created a program on his own. He was a computer programmer trying to get potholes fixed in his community that the city wasn't doing anything about. It took off, and it's basically used around the country now. And in Burlington, there are somewhere in the neighborhood about 50 different types of categories of things that residents can report. Potholes is one of them, but you can report all sorts of different things through the tool. It can be really useful, but like most things, when you have the more things that you're trying to do at once, the number of priorities, the harder it is to feel like you're doing a great job at all of those things. If we could focus on the highest priority, I think we could do our best work. We're a little spread thin right now. So if you do report something, it gives you the ability, if you go to the city website, if you're not familiar with the tool, it gives you the ability on the homepage of the website, you'll see a list of things to include the agenda for upcoming meetings, jobs, parking, payments, elections. And there's a traffic cone and it says see, click, fix underneath that. If you click on that traffic cone, it'll take you to a series of 3 pages that are going to give you an option to enter the type of category. In this case, a found syringe. You're going to enter the address. The system tells you what, going to ask you to move the cursor to where the report is or type in the address here at 645 Pine Street. With a syringe, you can submit a photo or not. Our preference is there's a photo. The reason for having a photo would be if someone reports it here, it would be great to know if it's in the area of Pine and Lakeside. Is it in front of Cumberland Farms by the gas pumps? Or is it over here on our side? Or is it over by Feldman's Bagels? The photo, depending on how it's taken, gives us some of that background. When we first started, people reporting syringes, and one reporter let us know there was one in UVM's main parking lot up by the gymnasium. Like, if you've ever been there, it's a huge place. We asked for a hint just to narrow it down for us. If there's a parking space number, you keep in mind that someone from one of the people that you're paying their salary is going to have to go and find those things. We'd like them to spend less time looking for them. So there's a sub-series question on C-Click Fix for syringes. It asks you, since they're very small, could you give us specific location as possible? And we would normally look for something like this to say it's at the northwest corner, right in front of the ballot box for voting at the DPW building at 645 Pine. Perfect. I don't think we would miss that, even if it wasn't, even if a photo wasn't included. It gives you an option to look at the things that you're going to report and then click submit. It really is as simple as that. And I probably should have paused to ask, how many, if you would mind, raise your hand, how many folks are already familiar with C-Click Fix or have used it? Okay, great. So I'm talking to at least half or about half of folks that do know it. It's a fairly simple process. You click on the category you want to report, select the location, add a photo, description, confirm, and submit. That's 5 steps, not see, click, fix. But the idea is you see something, you click on these things, and the city fixes it for you. There are some things that we can't fix, but typically you'll get some sort of response back. I think Chapin's team here is pretty good with some of their messaging to let you know if there's going to be delays on things. Often when they're working on a water break or things like that, they'll send a message about delayed responses and things. I'll pause there for a minute and ask for questions. I was going to give a quick demonstration to show what you do if you were at, if you had the opportunity to pick it up yourself. We would certainly encourage that.
I just want to add a quick clarifying point before folks have questions. Is the way that Bill that was a very thorough explanation. Thank you. But I know how to do it. That's a very different process than I use, because you explained the desktop experience.
Correct.
And it's also an app, which is really important for folks to know. You can just go to the Apple App Store and download it. And that's the way I always use it if I'm out and about. And I think it may be even a couple of fewer steps to get it loaded up, because it's a pretty good app interface. And if anyone wants to see, it's got a little wrench on it as the logo. And I'm happy to show you what it looks like on my phone as you
wander around going complaining. Click, 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 click.
It's actually very easy. It's
You could, however, I will point out, I get notifications on things that are specific to the Permitting Inspections Department. Things that you report, you will get notifications on, back from the system about it. So you have to if you submit 50 things, then you'll be getting 50 messages that it's been acknowledged, and then you'll get another 50 when it's closed. So you do have to be prepared for that. So if you report a lot of things, you will get notifications.
Bill, I have a question. So on the app, it shows issues fixed all time being 40 6,000 items plus. I'm wondering how can one decipher what is being fixed, what is being reported, what's a live ongoing incident that hasn't been fixed, but it's still on the books where people can see on the app directly and know that that's happening. Because my biggest concern is that people will be reporting, but they don't know what has been fixed and what hasn't been fixed. You can walk on any of the streets, bunch of potholes, even on neighborhood street and such. So my thing is, what is the level of efficiency in terms of like making sure that these live results, so quote unquote, is available to the public where they can see this is happening, or at least this is what the city has already worked on, and this is what they're about to work on next. Besides sending messages back to the person that it's being closed or cleared or done or whatnot.
Yeah, so C-Click Fix is a vendor that really we subscribe to that, and they're the ones who ultimately control what interface you see and what the reporting is. So they're the ones, I think that's just a standard for them, that they report all of the communities that are supported by that are using the system. They report the lifetime number, of issues that have been fixed. I'm not sure there's currently a method for that. I will follow it up with a message to the vendor to ask that if that's something that they would put into their repertoire so that folks could see it. It might be a great thing for a lot of communities, but it's a great suggestion. And you could do the same. There's a way to add comments, and you could certainly do it
I
as
was
a
thinking
resident.
of doing that, but I wasn't sure how effective that is.
Yeah,
So I'll try submitting some stuff and see what comes out of it.
sure.
Let me just say one thing. So just make sure that when people speak, that people in the back of the room can hear them. They have the suspicion that those people back there did not hear what we all said. Yes.
So my wife and I cleaned up Main Street in front of Edmonds. We've been doing it for a year and a half, and occasionally we'll get a needle or two and put them into the 20 plus empty beer cans that are that we find biweekly on that area. And why is it? You mentioned graffiti. There's a huge quantity of beer and especially, these cocktails with vodka cans. I don't. Is it UVM students? I don't see it going through Champlain. I don't see them going into Champlain land. So I think it's UVM students that are doing it. And I don't know, but the number of needles has gone way down.
So, Bill. Oh yeah, so I just want to share a memory, if I may. So Bill, when I used to work at King Street years and years and years ago, Bill was always, Corporal Ward. At the time of the Burlington Police, we would call Corporal Ward to come because we see a needle somewhere, and he'll come and get the needles while he was, Corporal Ward at the Burlington Police. I don't know how many years. So you always been doing that. He would come with this little shoot thing to pick them up. I forget that little container you would come use.
Yeah,
You remember that?
Bunch of different types of
Yeah.
disposal containers, but the police department had the ability to respond in some cases at that point, but there was a transition. It was a command decision that it was getting too big, and then Howard Services, the Safe Recovery Program on Clark Street, became the primary. And as they shifted and their budget system changed, it seemed to have shifted back more fully onto the city. So between Parks, DPW, and my folks, there's a big draw on city services. And I am looking for more teamwork with other agencies and not just have it be a city responsibility. I will go back to your comment, sir, and just say thank you for what you're doing. And I am going to leave this when I'm done. If that way, since I work in this building, I can collect any that are not used, but it's a handout. If folks are willing and able, if you find a single one and you want to collect it yourself, this is from the Vermont Department of Health about using gloves or using a pickup device like this, or you could, use a small tool like pliers or something like that to pick them up and put them into a recyclable container. They recommend a number 2 hard plastic, seal it up and mark do not recycle, and it can go into the regular trash. So there's a handout that I can leave. That way, I don't want to give it to everybody if you don't want it, but I will leave them and people can.
We could pass around.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll ask after you.
I had a question, Bill, about obviously reporting things that whatever it is, a pothole or a needle, it's to address the situation. But especially with needles, can you talk about how the data is being used at like a higher level to drive maybe decision making about where do we put a needle receptacle or things like that?
Yes, it's been used for exactly that purpose, to try to figure out where do we have a bigger box was put in, and the Board of Health, who I work with, the 5-member citizen Board of Health, they used some of the money that they had to help the Parks Department get a larger drop box in City Hall Park. If you were to look back at some of the data in the past, you'd see there's a big heat map, sort of a hot spot in that area, around that area. So it was identified as one of those spots. We can only put them in city properties, but the Board of Health has actually purchased some containers that can be given to businesses, and they have the Board of Health has their own worksheet that they're using to try to offer those to downtown businesses, people that want them to have the boxes if their staff is doing this pickup work, and they can put them there. And city staff will actually come back and pick up the boxes when they're full and leave them where we have a disposal contract with Parks Department to have those collected. So the data is used for that mapping purpose, but I think it's also used pretty regularly with the mayor's team doing ComStat on the substance abuse in the city of Burlington, and how do we work on the challenges in that area, just to help identify, for example, the folks at the Howard Center Safe Recovery. They like to know where these hotspots are developing because they do share it with their client base. The client base there, as I understand it, is very attuned to the fact that they're getting a service, and quite a few of the folks are really concerned about the bad the ramifications and the bad publicity that a single person doing these things, or different groups dropping them in different areas. There's an idea that peer pressure among that group has a big impact, because people will look out for each other to make sure that people aren't giving the system a bad name. So it's not real clear on exactly who is dropping all of these, but there was definitely a time during the pandemic where more needles were being given out to people because the shop wasn't open as frequently. So we would actually find unused needles discarded. But if they're discarded and they're not in a container, they are still trash. You can't give a dirty, even if it hasn't been opened with the cover, it's not appropriate to be giving that back out. So they all become trash. Those we didn't track separately to see what was clean and what was dirty. If it's not in a container, it's dirty. But I think there's more that we could probably uncover from the data, but I'm leaving that to Nancy Stetson in our planning department, who does the data collection and the reporting with the ComStat. Probably not the best person to talk about what they are planning with that data, but I can assure you we're doing our best to at least provide it for them. And there's some great mapping data that could go along with it. I was going to do some for you with Ward 6, but with only 4 or 5 reports so far this year, there's no real hotspot. It's spread out pretty good with those 5 reports. And you had a question.
Yeah, kind of like a question and a statement. I know, probably 2 or 3 months ago, a community member, Kristen Fiore, I want to say, made a video about her picking up needles by herself and kind of best practices and why she does it and stuff like that. So I was mostly curious on if in Click See Fix, which seems to be the platform that we all want to be using, is there an option to like report, but take care of it yourself?
Yes.
Okay.
So we've seen a number of those, and I really appreciate that because it doesn't just get it off of the street quicker, but it gives us the ability to still report on it. Residents who, and a lot of times people don't know that they can close their own issue, but if you open an issue, you can also close your own issue if the city staff has not already acknowledged it. So we would appreciate that continuing. That's a great way to do it. If you're cleaning up in a neighborhood, just wanted to note for statistical purposes, it was found right by the Cumberland Farms on Pine Street, and it was collected and disposed of today. And then you can actually click on the thing and close it back out. If you have any trouble, you could also just make a comment saying this can be closed out. I wasn't able to for some reason, but in the past, that's been a way for residents. You can't act on them once the city has sort of touched it and activated it by saying, acknowledged it, and someone will address this. But if that hasn't happened yet, you should still be able to close one.
Bill, I have
Thank you. I appreciate
one
that.
more question for you. Just to make it easy for people, if somebody finds a needle, would the city consider like putting up a bins where people can drop it off, where it's meant for needles only, and you could put like designated spots where those are the hot spots where people are much more likely to find needles, and they could just go ahead and put it in there, and then somebody who is certified to pick this stuff up from the city can pick it up as they do their rounds once a week or something.
Yes, we could probably do automated messaging for the report, because the way C-Click Fix works, we have the ability to, depending on the type of category, we can have a precise message that goes out. I've got one set up for this found syringes, that flyer that I had passed around. If you make a report about a found syringe, there's a report back with an email to you. Thank you for reporting this. If you're capable of handling this yourself, here's a sheet that says where, how a resident could do it themselves if they feel they could handle it. I think we could add on to that and say, here's a list that the Burlington Board of Health has made, a map that shows where the drop boxes are located around the city. If you want to use one of these, you're welcome to, and those will be taken care of by city staff. There probably are additional places where we could put boxes, but I think having those reports come out, or if people ask for locations, that would be helpful. I'll use that as a suggestion. The Board of Health is working on that. And in fact, this month, they'll be doing a report back, probably within the next 30 days, they'll be completing their sort of response to a resolution for city council right here in this room, actually, this month, and then make a report back to city council about their recommendation on the syringe current status. And that includes that map that you described. I can take that suggestion and sort of link it into the C-Click Fix database so that people know where they could put those.
Okay. My only hope is that these drop boxes will be like within walking distance away from where somebody found it, rather than having to get into your car and then go to a city office where drop boxes and then drop it off over there. So, looking at the entire city on most of the streets, I've never seen a drop box for needles at all, ever. So the transit center is one of those main hot spots over there. There are no any drop box at all. And then when I pass by the school area of BHS, there are no drop boxes that I've ever seen. So just having somewhere visible where it's like either right on Cherry Street or Pearl Street or next to where the pods are, those areas where people could just within a walking distance just drop it off and they're good to go. Would be amazing.
Heard some of the stigma associated for people that want to put one in a box, that it's a best practice to have them close to another trash can. That way someone else isn't just so I think we'd have to work on that. And I also know there's a stigma attached for people who not wanting to have them on their own property because they think it's going to attract people using drugs in that area. So there's work we need to do there. It's a great suggestion.
And there is an unfortunate amount of folks that collect use needles from drop boxes for reuse. sometimes the trash is a better option. But I just wanted to say that Bill's team gave us some really great training. My custodians at Champlain feel empowered now to kind of follow these protocols and not have to call the city, which is really great. And their trick tips are Gatorade bottles, because the mouth is really big compared to a Coca-Cola bottle or something. And you always leave it under your foot to put the needle in, so that if you miss, the needle might hit your foot. Whereas if you're holding a bottle and you miss and it sticks you, you've got a couple of months worth of good fun to go deal with at the UVM Medical Center. So it is really easy. Those hard plastic bottles are really easy. Don't feel too scared about it. It's definitely something that
Thank you, Bill.
we do a lot.
Can I just ask a quick question? We see a lot of plastic spoons, an awful lot of white plastic spoons. Is that part of the drug process, or, why are so many white plastic spoons?
I wouldn't think so, only because oftentimes the spoons, they're typically using something like a spoon to heat up a drug. And if you used a plastic spoon, it would just melt. So there's probably something else to that.
Fentanyl, water soluble.
I wouldn't imagine a spoonful would be anything that would be enough to kill someone. Yeah.
From what I've seen, is that I've seen a lot of folks using plastics to clean the crack pipes, especially when it gets jammed. So I think for them, it's a lot easier to use a plastic on plastic versus metal on plastic to clean it up, at least based on what I've seen on spoons and forks. Yeah.
Also, if you're at Edmonds, I'm the mom of a couple of Edmonds kids, and they love to steal the plastic spoons from the cafeteria. So it might just be the kids that are littering.
Yeah, we see the plastic waste from kids, it's different type.
Could be anything.
A lot of candy wrappers.
Okay. Bill.
Thank you very much.
Very much.
All right.
Sure.
Talk to you soon.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just.
Indeed. Nick Anderson, the AVP of Planning at Champlain College. And I just wanted to give a quick intro on a zoning amendment that Joan and Becca mentioned that we requested in July last year, going through its kind of process. And I don't want to give a presentation about it. There is lots of information you can find if you look on city website on both the Planning Commission presentations, the Ordinance Committee presentations, the City Council packet for coming up on Monday. But the short and skinny, and I really wanted to spend this time just getting feedback from y'all, is that Champlain College 2008, 2009 was one of the only entities, I think, that had a bed cap put in place. So it actually limited the number of students that we could house on campus. And so there's an institutional zone around Champlain, and it's divided into two what's called core campus overlays. And that one overlay is an academic overlay and another is a residential overlay. And they both have different maximum bed counts. And I think, you can think back in time about why we had bed counts around the concern of, Champlain taking over the neighborhood and trying to keep things kind of dense. And trying to create different zones within kind of the academic core where most of the classrooms are versus keeping the residents all in one area. There are a residential area. We still have a lot, 110 beds or something we could do. Our academic core, we're already at a point where we're only about 14 beds that we could do. And we had I say fabulous opportunity of an existing building on main campus in that academic core that wasn't really being utilized that well. Mostly it was a faculty office building, and we've had a lot of changes in how staff and faculty operate post-pandemic, where we've got a lot of people who work remote, a lot of people that kind of have flexible different shifts and things like that, and we there's about 36 offices in that building, but only about 23 folks. And other places around campus where we have vacancies too. So the concept was, well, if we could shuffle a few people around, we can make much better use of this building than being half empty all the time, and convert it back into a residence hall. So it was a residence hall in 2008. We changed it into faculty offices. It's still a beautiful old house, Aiken Hall, that we didn't change really in 2008, so it has bedrooms still. And so the concept was to be able to bring students back right into the main core of campus, which means that we've got less students kind of living in the hinterlands outside of that core. It means for our first year populations, we kind of keep them close to the nest. They're really close to the library, really close to the dining hall, kind of feel the sense of community. We do have a few buildings kind of on the outskirts of campus. Our furthest one away is down South Willard Street in North House, which is about a half mile away. So the kids that get kind of put there, it's a small building, they feel kind of quite far away. So the whole concept was, well, if we could do this adaptive reuse, bring our students closer, add 33 beds to our core campus, it'll help us to be able to potentially actually divest from some buildings, which we haven't done that I've ever heard of. But, looking at that building that's a half mile away, could we put it on the open market and sell it and provide kind of that asset back to the Burlington housing market? Because we know that there's always that pressure on private houses or other houses for just normal market. And so with only 14 beds available within our cap and 33 kind of being the sweet spot in terms of how the building is set up, the only option we had was to apply for a zoning amendment. And through discussions with the city planning office, we originally said, we're happy if you just kind of beef up the cap just a little bit so that it at least gets this building in. But we really think that when we think about housing and the housing problems we have in Burlington, does it make sense in this current climate? Maybe it did in 2008, but does it make sense in this kind of housing climate to limit Champlain from having more beds? If we can have more beds on campus, again, we can kind of start getting rid of some of the buildings that are further out. So the request is just to eliminate the housing cap on both the residential and academic core campus. No other changes. It's still the same density, still the same lot coverage requirements, everything. Just simply striking the word zoning from the cap from the words. Happy to answer questions around what that means. Becca already had kind of questions around like, well, what does that mean for parking? Or what does it mean for noise and other impacts that students may have? Parking's an easy one actually for me. We're proposing this one to be a first year residence hall, and we ban first years from having a car anyway. So it's relatively easy. If it did become a upper class building where we have seniors and things like that who typically do have a car sometimes, it wouldn't change our parking system. We require all our residential students to actually park over here and take a shuttle. So between 8 and 4, Monday to Friday, those residential students can't park around main campus anyway. So having another building that is a residential building doesn't change that process in any way. We enforce our rules 7 days a week. There's obviously people who try to push the limits all the time. That's just human nature. If no one's looking, why not do it? And so that's why we have our enforcement 7 days a week, and we constantly ticketing folks, whether they're adults, employees, as well as students, just for if they're parking in the wrong spot. So I think that's my overall speech. I'd really love to hear any thoughts, questions, comments.
I have a thought and a question. And I think this also goes for UVM, but I'll just say it's a maze finding things around Champlain College. I went to drop off item over there, and I kept on being pointed to different locations to drop something off. But I'm wondering what initiated taking this step. Is it just because of due to lack of housing the city told you, or is this just because you guys are giving more chance to students to be closer, like you said, to the campus?
I guess times are tight in higher education, period, right? Every 2 years we do a comprehensive analysis with a company outside of Boston called Gordian on they call it our return on physical assets, right? We got 56 buildings, and every one of those buildings, even if it's half empty, still has a huge amount of deferred maintenance cost. So we've done some pretty hard looking at like our physical footprint and working out like, do we really need every one of these buildings anymore? If we get rid of one building, we don't only kind of put it into the Burlington market, but we save on taxes, utilities, plowing, mowing, all the different things. So it's really just kind of looking at our physical footprint and saying like, does it work for us at the moment? And I think, as I said about like the pandemic totally changed things when it comes to employees. We have a pretty liberal remote work policy that allows folks to work from home multiple days a week, as long as they're not student facing. And so if you work from home more than 3 days a week, you don't get a desk. And so that actually means that we've got lots of buildings right now that kind of have 5 empty offices there and 5 there and 5 there. So it's really all about optimization of our footprint the most. And then hopefully it'll be easier to find places because
Yes, I hope so too.
Does UVM have the same bed cap?
No.
No, okay.
Yeah, Champlain's the only one for some
So
reason.
you're getting screwed.
I think there was probably some very sound judgment to put that cap in place, but I think things are very different nowadays. Yes.
So, how would, Mike? Isn't the housing on St. Paul, Champlain College building also half a mile away, if you will?
It is.
Okay.
But that one we have a shuttle for. So
No, that's not where my question goes. How would having no cap affect, at the time you were incentivized in various ways to create that property? How does this change that kind of thinking? How does it fit in the overall planning, I guess? Would you be doing it again in the future or not necessarily? I don't. I'm just trying to-
another St. Paul Street building.
Yeah, I'm resolving, okay, here's St. Paul and you did it for certain reasons. And now, okay, now you can infill on core campus. So what's the relationship in that general planning?
The beauty of that 194 St. Paul Street building is we had the land and it's got good scale. We don't really have a good scale of main campus left. If we can't count all the grassy spots we could possibly use, the most we would ever build on the core campus could be a 95-bed residence hall. It's like what we've got left. So I don't think we're pushing the limits and putting 300 or 500 more kids on main campus. I don't think the cap really matters too much in terms of that, if we tried to raise it up. But that building down at St. Paul is our most popular building. It's a different style. It's apartment style. Kids get to have their own kitchen, do their own cooking, don't have to have a meal plan and those kind of things. So we have a wait list for that building all the time.
So was that under a cap ordinance or not under a cap ordinance?
No, that wasn't.
Okay.
Because it was just a standalone property in downtown. So it was under just the regular downtown zoning requirements. And it was actually required to be built not as student housing. It's required to be like a normal apartment building so that if anything ever happened and we wanted to offload the building, it would be an asset for Burlington, not a, eyesore or something that couldn't be reutilized.
Or restricted in some way. Yeah. Thanks. Yep.
As someone, as you know, lives behind Jensen Hall, close neighbor of Champlain College, I can go through the history of why all these things came up and how we worked together with lots of threats against us neighbors to get good relationship with Champlain College and get a parking plan. Right now in front of Jensen, there's a car with Maryland plates that has 3 stacks of tickets on it, so towing is an option,
Towing is an option for the city. We can't tow on a public asset. The minute that car is parked in my parking lot, it is getting towed. There's like 3 of them that I know of. But
yeah, what's the deal here? Why can't we, it used to be that you had more authority and now it seems like you just put little Because it's all parking is all our issue, right?
I contemplated doing a C-click fix to the city to say this is an abandoned car.
Yeah.
It hasn't moved for 2 months.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think that
Well, I know where there's lots of needles. I can stick them in the tires.
that's on the record. No, I think that there is still more that the city and Champlain can do with regard to parking. There's been a concept or a review kind of thought process around, what would paid parking be like for South Willard and Maple, with maybe a residential parking permit for people who live there, to try and stop cars just living on the street for 4 months. Because there's plenty of our neighbors that have cars for 4 months on Maple Street too, that they just sit there. If there was some sort of, parking meter approach, I think we'd see a lot more turnover and probably a lot less people exploiting not just Champlain's rules, but the city kind of asset. So we are a big proponent of putting in, park mobile zones in that area, if the city ever wanted to get to that point.
I like to see just no parking.
What happens if you have a party and you want people to come do it?
They can park up on Summit Street.
Hi, I'm Barbara Crook. I'm another neighbour of Champlain. And so I'm curious, if we take off the limits for the number of, for the housing density, what does that mean for the neighbourhood? What could, in terms of expansion of your student base?
Well, it's still bound by the current institutional zone, so there wouldn't be kind of expansion further into the neighborhood, any potential.
But it would get more dense within the college
Should mean,
zone.
within those existing buildings or within our existing, 22 acres that we have, that, we could potentially densify there.
And you're suggesting there's no limit on that, or that you're saying there's a physical limit because of the campus?
Correct. There's already a height limit. There's already a coverage limit. There's already kind of the maximum limits you would have. But by having a cap on the number of beds, it actually means we can't adaptively reuse buildings. We would have to, shimmy things around and build new, which isn't economically feasible in today's day and age.
So you did,
But I can't see that, it's going to change how many students we're really kind of packing into the core campus. We're still an 1,800 to 2,000 person institution. We can't see ourselves growing any more than that. It's just a matter of how can we be smarter with our footprint and maybe offload some of the outlying buildings and have everyone kind of closer to the core.
I guess I don't fully understand why you need to lift you're talking about lifting the limit citywide or just on the main campus?
It's on the academic core campus. So right there.
They can't convert the building right now.
Well, that's one building, but in the future, why couldn't they build another 10-story building there?
For the future, there's a height limit. So, again, we're kind of
8-story building.
Lots of limits.
What's to prevent it?
On the campus.
I thought you
write down your information from.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's still limits. There's still good zoning rules that make sure that, everything's within reason. But I don't necessarily.
But there's nothing to prevent it once you lift the cap.
Correct. Everything else.
Except for the limits on, there are already limits on how high the building can be, and they have the physical and the coverage, how much space they can build on the campus. That's restricted.
I guess I understand that, but I don't have the vision for what that would mean if they decided to fully develop it.
Well, they're just about fully developed. There isn't much. You might shoehorn in one more building.
Correct.
And, they're bound to the same codes that the rest of the city is. So all they're saying is, we've got some buildings we're not utilizing. If we're allowed to go higher than, is it 88 bed, the cap, if we can remove the cap, we can then get rid of other buildings that are not on campus that will help, it'll come back into the public domain and be rented for housing. So it'll help the housing issue here in Burlington. And the whole extent is just basically, we're going to put these kids on campus rather than off campus.
I think I understand that, but is there a limit on the number of students that Champlain can accommodate? So why not just raise the limit to the number of beds you need to convert the building? Why not make it, why does it have to be an unlimited option?
That was just what the city planning department projected, because it didn't really set up for the future. If there was another building that made sense to do an adaptive reuse and you had to then do another zoning amendment for another 10 or 15 or 30, they saw it was more reasonable just to say no cap.
So when we heard about this in the ordinance committee, the director of the planning department said that in our city plans, there's a number of goals depending on the neighborhoods. And for institutions, one goal is to densify the college campus area and do things and make decisions that encourage all of our colleges to house more students on campus. And so given that there's not, I think sort of the other side of what you're asking here is that the city and myself as a counselor, there's not a lot of risk in raising the cap because there's just not that much room that's available. It's not like by raising the cap, now there's room for 500 more beds on campus. That room doesn't exist. The physical space is not there. Really what it would be is a piece by piece, maybe another office building with 35 beds in the future would be converted, which is in line with those goals. And I think this project is, what I want to also say is that I really commend Champlain College for taking this initiative to get students back on campus and to provide housing for your lower classmen. And, that's something we need all of our institutions across the city to be doing more of and taking that responsibility. It's really, this is a small step. It's only 33 beds, but I think it will, if you can offload a building that's half a mile away and get it back into the housing market, and then we can do that through various other institutions can do that. If you do that 10 times throughout the city, that would really ease up the pressure on our low vacancy rate and the pressure overall in the housing system. So, and I had the same thought as you, what will this mean for residents? Are we going to flood our neighborhoods with more college students than we're used to having? And throughout these conversations, I think the answer is no, this is not going to do that in the end. And because the other piece is that every building that goes through this change process, even though there's no cap anymore, each building still has to go through a permitting and a zoning process and get approved for additional beds. So, if there was 100-bed facility going up, it would have a separate process with public input as well.
So
hopefully that helps.
Do they have to notify the neighbors when they make those changes?
Yes. So that was actually on my list.
Not officially neighbors, because it's the whole campus. Champlain gets to decide whether we're a neighbor of this particular project.
Yes, I think that's a great point. And Nick and I talked about this a little bit. I would like to request, and hopefully this is an easy ask, that when you get to the appropriate stage of this and that it's happening, or even right now, since it's already a public hearing, if Champlain can do a couple of front porch forum posts about this and just alert people that it's going on and then tell them, okay, if you do have a noise issue, here's who you call, and just make sure that info is kind of freshly out there. Because from what you've told me, you do have really great systems in place, but I think it'll go a long way for the neighborhood to make sure everyone knows what to do if an issue does come up. I think that's a great suggestion.
We do I do an annual front porch, a couple of annual front porch forums around kind of April time where we're, this is what's coming up this summer. We tell you if we're doing any construction, so you kind of get a general sense and give you an idea of what's, the different conferences and the activity that you'll expect over summer, and contact point, which is always me, to be able to talk about that. And I'm happy to come to an NPA meeting every month too, and talk about those different plans before they get too far down the track.
Yeah, just as for general education, next to the admissions building is a private house that's surrounded by Champlain College that has a huge backyard, completely developable property. Tony could retire tomorrow, and
I'm sure Tony is retired, but depending on which one you expect.
Yeah, but he, I think Champlain College has first refusal on that property and could easily redevelop it into a huge addition. So, it's not without possibility that Champlain College could grow.
Okay.
We can.
Nick,
Yes.
thank you very much.
No worries.
So that brings us to our NPA business. Our next meeting in April will be focusing on green infrastructure. And we're going to that will include, among other things, excuse me, an update from Eleanor Walker from the Water Department, Water Resources, talking about projects that are planned for the South End. And Diane has been working on pulling this meeting together and presenting some ideas around green infrastructure and how we can incorporate that and work with the city to bring those ideas forward in the South End. And we're also going to be providing some other information. So more to come on that, but we'll have that out in Front Porch Forum. And in May, we're also—
Nancy, can I just
sure
jump in for a sec just to add? Part of the idea of that April meeting, as I understood it, was that we would have some small discussion groups. I don't know if that's still how you're envisioning this.
I'm not
And
sure
maybe
that
that's too early even to know.
right. We're
Diane, you look like you had
I
something to
was
say.
offer that it's likely to be a panel discussion
Okay,
with a Q&A.
okay.
And we're opening it up to broader than just Ward 6.
Excellent. And I know that the steering committee talked about the fact that we would like to do a community dinner before that meeting. So we just wanted to give folks advance notice because we did a couple of joint meetings with Ward 5. We had really great attendance. We had food for those. It seemed like a nice opportunity to spend some time, but it does mean showing up a little bit earlier so that you have time to eat and enjoy your food before the meeting starts. That's not a requirement, but we just want to encourage people to show up for that and come and have a little time for socializing before the meeting starts.
Thank you for that.
And now you can go on to May if you want. June, whatever.
Okay.
Or question.
Oh, I was just gonna ask about where the NPA meetings are gonna be held. Is this permanent?
Good,
or are we
good
going-
question.
Good
Thank you. No, we are going to switch to this location permanently. We found it was a little bit easier for people to get to, easier parking, and a little bit more flexibility. Plus the price is right.
So yes, we're here for the foreseeable future. Anita scheduled us out.
Oh, only the next 4 months. Oh,
The next 4 months. The next one. So then in May, this is not necessarily in conjunction with our meeting, our meeting would be our regular meeting, but we're also trying to organize some kind of a community project like around Green Up Day, or possibly, depending on what we hear back from city council, it could be another type of graffiti type project. So if you have thoughts about that, things that you'd be interested in, please be sure to let us know. But that's something that we're investigating that we would do in May. And we've also been talking to Ward 5. They had a great community picnic last year. We did not in Ward 6. So we're exploring the possibility of coordinating with them to have a community activity, picnic or something like that in the spring.
And there's a discussion with Champlain College with the rain gardens and having a rain garden tour.
Right. That's one other thing we're trying to coordinate. Yes, thank you. And that would be
in May.
in
on a Saturday.
May or June, depending on
that's
schedule.
true.
Edible plants in the rain gardens.
June when the students are gone.
They're never gone. They're just different.
I think we're good. I think we're good. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all.
Nice to see you again. Nice to see you. Sometimes you don't eat, or you don't.
I never, no, I feel you there.
Thank you.
The non